Bush RP20 record player. We're going to convert this into a guitar amp. I've done a couple of these already, but I'm going to video this one from start to finish and go through, just show you how I do these. So we're going to remove the turntable, and I've already took the screws out, so that'll be the first job because we don't want that in it. And the amplifier, and I'm just going to see if I can lift this up while I'm using my phone to video this at the moment, so just bear with me if it's a bit crap as regards the focusing and things. So here's the amplifier. I've actually got this, just got this propped up. You can see, notice that it's all on a chassis. These are great for converting into guitar amps because we've got a full chassis there. Well, a lot of them just have the module, just both transformers strapped on together, and they shove the volume knobs through. The valves are mounted on. This is a proper chassis, so we can good sized main power transformer. So valves in this. Let's try and spin it round if I can. Not easy, it's got rubber feet on. Let's just bring that down again. Try and bring it round. Very simple design. As we can have a look, so I've got electrolytic there. That'll be out, of course, because we don't. We're going to change all those components, so we're removing that. Well, what I did with the last one, I mounted one of those small tag boards I've been using, and we did a Fender Champ out of the last one, but we used one of the Russian preamp valves, like ECC 83 6.3 volt Russian preamps. Can't remember the number. And we used an EL83 on that one, but we're going to use some slightly different tubes on this one. And so we can see we've got these wax caps in there, or one or two of those in there. This does run. I've powered this up. It does run. So that's, we should strip that down. Basically, we'll keep the transformer, voltage selector, volumes will go, they'll be wrong, capacitor, other caps will go and everything. Just keep the valve seats and build a completely new amp. So the valves this has got in is an EL84, EZ80, and a valve called an EBC81, which is like a single triode, and it's got diodes. It's like double triode diode valve. Speaker Celestion, you can just see down there, if we just hone in there, Celestion speaker, but we won't be using that either. We use some German Visitron speakers for these, which I bought just as a chance to see if they worked, and they actually work brilliant, so we're going to use those. And we finish off with a Bush badge. We put that on the front, and they make a great little amp. They sound really good. The way to use these is to stand them on their ends. The speakers are facing up. These sides are made of plywood, and the bottom is ply, you can see, but it's very thin ply. Makes them really resonant, so they do sound really good. Very good results. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to strip this down, and then get the chassis on the bench, and then we can start pulling that to bits and then building it up. Right, we're back with this Bush record player. I've got the chassis out now. Pink's inspecting it, so now we can't see anything. So, and she's going to sit right in front of it, so we'll have to pause for a minute. So we're just going to have a look at the valves first of all that we've got in here. Two Mullards, which is that one. See if we can just move that so you can see it. EBC81. Oops. EL84, which is a Marconi valve. I've not seen one of those before, but sure most of you will have done. And that is an EZ80 rectifier valve there, also a Mullard. So a good selection of tubes, but we're going to have to test those and see if they work. Well, we know it runs, but whether they're good tubes or bad tubes or average tubes. So this just has a simple volume and tone. That's the voltage selector you can see there. It's got a little Zobel filter on there. It's got a little capacitor and a there's a 10k resistor under there. Perhaps can't see that, just protruding there. Is it a bit of a strange design? Now we've got the capacitor right next to the preamp valve. Obviously that's something we'll remedy. We certainly don't want that. We could end up, once we turn it into a guitar amp, could end up with some noise. So have a look underneath the chassis. It's got some wax capacitors there, a couple of three of those. That looks like a replacement, but we'll be removing it anyway. These caps, electrolytics, I've done, this is the third one now of these, and that cap, that capacitor has been in good order in all of them, and it's from 1957. Not that we're going to leave it in, but and I think that is, not sure if that's a Mallory one. I know it was in one of them. So we've got a pilot light there, and you see through that little hole, and in the actual the wood that this will bolt to, there's a little red lens. So we've got some of this rubber cable. So all of this will be coming out. Now in the previous ones I've had an EF86 and the output valve, which I use the SP83, the Chinese ones, which are really good, and I used an ECC83 and did a Fender Champ with the other one. With this one, what I'm thinking is to keep that EBC81, add an EF86 and then a tone stack. So that's a single triode. It's actually a double diode triode valve. The EBC81 is a double diode triode valve, so it's single triode there. Push that into the pentode, the F86, put the tone stack between the F86 and the output valve, and Bob's your uncle with this. So I'm going to test the valves now, just see if they're any good. We're not using that EL84 there, that Marconi. We're going to use the SV83. Incidentally, those the pinout on those is pretty similar, and once wired in correctly, you can use an EL84 if you wish to. So options. So this is where I'm going to put the tag board. That's where I put it on the last one, and it fits quite nice there, and also it's quite close when you're connecting the preamp components up there. So that's where we're adding that. The question is, where are we going to put that EF86, because we've got to drill a hole to get it in. So I'm going to examine that, and then I'm going to come up with a suitable answer, and then you can all laugh at me and say, ha, that's not going to work. Right, I've had a bit of a look at that, and I think the best place is to try, I think we can just squeeze it in there. And the reason, I know you can see that there's some more space there, bigger space, but that's getting a bit close to the transformer, so I might get some interference from there. So I think it'll just fit into that space there, and they'll be side by side. I think that will be okay. Yes, it will. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pop it there. So we're going to drill a hole and find a valve socket to fit out of my goodies parts. We'll get that fitted. So plodding on with this Bush RP20 record player. Just actually screwed that down, but I'll work on it. So I've added there's the extra valve seat that we've added for the EF86, and we've got the one there for the EBC81, and we've added the tag board in for the parts that we're going to put on here for the components. And I've used these nylon bolts here and created some supports to keep that well insulated from because these terminals are quite close together and you've got components going across. I didn't want metal screws in there, so I always put nylon in. It's a bit safer. So I've got that. So building this up at the minute. So these components here, these are for the EF86. We've got 47 microfarad there as a cathode bypass cap. We've got a cathode resistor of 1k. We've got a 47k grid 1 resistor there, and we've got, sorry about that, we've got 100k anode resistor, plate resistor if you like, for the EF86, and then we've got the screen resistor grid 2 there. We've got the capacitor to ground that goes across that there, and the capacitor I've got going across there, that's the coupling capacitor out from the anode of the EF86. That will go through the volume, out the volume, through that 10k hiding away under there. You can just see it. That's the grid stopper for the EBC81, and so that will go through there into the valve. It's the EBC81 valve. We've got 47 again, and again 1k for the cathode on the EBC81. That's as far as I've got with it at the minute. So I've got the power capacitors in there, only I did my usual stupid trick of forgetting to put the fuse in, so I've got to do that again, because we've got no HT fuse and we must have one. At the times I do that, I don't know why I do that, it's one of those stupid things I keep doing because I'm stupid. And I've got the I've also added in, and you can't see that but underneath, but that's one of those cable grips that I use for the mains cable. So it's looking most delightful, and that's where we are with it. So we'll crack on and do a bit more. So I've added a bit more now. I've got the tone stack in there, and I've got the supply feeds for the anodes, for the anode of the EBC81 and the anode and screen on the EF86. I have had separate capacitor for anode and grid 2 on some of these models, but I've decided to just go for one smoothing cap because of the space. We've got just clean those valve sockets up. That took some doing. So this EBC81's got it's a double diode triode valve. So the diodes just aren't being used. They just go to ground, and they're all, you can just see if you go in there, they're they're already connected together there. So I'm just going to ground that. The thing with these with all these RP20s that I've done, the heaters, one side of the heaters is also to ground, and you expect these to be quite noisy, and this is the quietest single-ended amps that I've ever done. This is they're so quiet, you can't believe it. So if it ain't broke, don't mend it. So I'm just going to connect the heater supply to pin 5, and pin 4 goes to ground, and that will connect that up. That's all I'm going to do on that one. So that'll connect the F86, the diodes are a bit of ground, and then we'll just wire up the rest of the components that we need to those. I've left some space there because that's going to be the cathode resistor and cathode bypass cap for the output valve. That's actually there at the minute, you can see that, but we're getting rid of those. I'm going to have those down on there and a slightly bigger wattage rating. Not sure what I mean, that's 150 ohms, depending on where we want to set the bias. And as you know, I set them at 100%, so I can everybody wincing now, it's cathode bias. So, but that's how I like them. Some people set them at more than that. In some amps, box amps and things, they set quite a bit more. Black Star, the Artisan 15s, they're way over biased, so way over 100%. So I think they're biased at about 17 watts dissipation, as opposed to 12, which is 100%. So are the Vox AC30s as well. So not sure what we'll need for that till we've got that in. So as usual, we'll jumper that in, see where we are with the voltages when we get to that point. Of course, we're not even close to that yet. Got quite a bit more wiring to do on that. So with all that said, we shall plod on a bit further. Right, I've got some power in it. I've just tagged it on, jumpered it to the mains for the start off with. Obviously I ain't got the tone stack and everything wired in, because the pots are mounted in the lid of the record player, so I ain't got that done yet. But we have got we are looking to bias it up now, so I'm going to get it biased, and then get that, because I've got that jumpered in at me, that bias resistors just jumpered in, but I've got everything else wired up except for the mains cable. Added an inline fuse. Remember I said that I'd forgot that inline fuse, because I'm a bit of a twat like that sometimes. So that is the one I've mounted for the HT, and I've put that piece of plastic. Now that actually is one of the partition for these drawers. It's actually slots in to make two partitions of two storage parts in one drawer. Splitting my words today. So I've borrowed one of those, and I've put it underneath just to insulate that, because I don't like those terminals getting too close to ground. They could be pushed down. So that's insulated that, made that safe. But everything else is in there, going across. So we've got both valves wired up. Most of that, yeah, that board needs a bit of a brush yet. It's got a few flakes, nothing major. So what we got on the bias, at 235 volts I have got 6.25 on there. No red plating. So now we're going to do some calculations. I've got an 180 ohms resistor now. This had a 150 ohm resistor in when it was running as a record player. I've just dropped to 180 in while I'm testing and work my way down from that to get the bias right. So we're going to do some calculations and see where we end up. So we're just going to do these bias calculations. 6.4 volts drop, 180 ohm resistor, plate cathode 284 volts, 5% deducted for the screen, comes out at 9.59 watts. That's 80% dissipation. So we're going to squeeze a bit more by lowering that resistor. So we've put a 100 ohm resistor in, which is 101 ohms to be precise. So 4.5 volts, which is the drop now, divided by 101%, take away 5% for the screen, times that by 271 volts, leaves us with 11.47 watts, which is about 95%. So that will do nicely. So that's all that testing done. So we'll solder that resistor, 100 ohm resistor in there, find a cathode bypass capacitor to go with it, and job will be a squirrel. And now it's time for lunch. Our lunch. Right, I've connected this the mains feed, and we've run that up into the switch. So I've used this terminal board here, put two isolated nylon bolts through there. Showed you that earlier. What I've also done is I've drilled out the middle terminal. There was an extra terminal in there, and the reason for that is because they can spin around, and if it spun around and touched that one, then the opposite end is going to be touching the neutral, so we get dead short there. So I've took them out just for safety's sake. So now we're going to move on and start wiring up the tone stack, which will be going on here as all the wires that are coming down. So we're wiring that up, so we'll get on with that now. We've got this new speakers in now there, and we've got a new baffle board with honing over there, which we've cut. So let's have a look at one of these speakers then. So Visiton, these speakers, these are about 3 inch. It's a 4 ohms one. I don't know why it says FRS8. You'd think that was 8 ohms, but they're actually 4 ohms. Just turn it round, you can see, and they're the speakers we put in. I've put 3 of these. In the first one I did put two 4 ohms in series to 8, and then I put an 8 ohms in with them and then widened back to 4. Let's just have a look at the front, what we've done. Yes, check that out. So we've got the we'll just hone in on the Splendor. That's not quite level yet. I've got to adjust that. In fact, I need to turn that round. The old switch needs to go around because on needs to be pointing to the light, really, if we're going to get finicky. So I've got these gold chicken knobs, Chinese specials, and I think they look the part. So we go across there, you can see the jack socket there. So when the lid comes down, you can see back there, there we have it. So that's the now we've got the in here, we've also got, and I've not wired that up yet, I need to get over in here as well. I'm drilling, and sorry about that. So there you can see I've put a switch socket in. That's for to use on an extension speaker, and that will cut out these two speakers that we're using here on the, which you can see, whoops, there, both of those. Right, wired up the speakers. You can see there we've got that the old jack socket in there, and then I've wired them up in series. So I've wired them up to 8 ohms. I think the speaker that came out of it was something like 5 ohms, something like that. And these together are 7.3. So we're over, but it's not going to make that much difference. So that's that done. Right, we had some problems with this, so we fired it up, and it run okay, but I'd got loads too much gain. Sounded dreadful, so we've been making some adjustments for most of yesterday and today. So we've now got it sounding pretty good. One of the main things that I've done to get it to sound decent is on this second stage, this EBC81. I've put a 10k bias resistor on there, so it's like a cold clipper, and that's reduced the gain, but it's also smoothed everything out. It's more softer tone now, not so hard and brittle. That was a cat jumping on the roof, by the way. So we've changed the capacitor on this grid on this EF86, which was, sorry about that, I'm not sure what happened there, which was 4.7 microfarad, I'd actually said that was 47 in a previous video, but I'd put 4.7 on. It was too much anyway. So I finished up with, I've got 100 nanofarad on there now, so that's again smooth things up. I had a 1k on the cathode resistor. I've made that 3.3k, and again that's reduced to some gain. I've also took the bypass cap off that EF86 there because we just didn't need it. So on that 10k resistor, that cold clipper, and that EBC81, I've also put an 100 nanofarad coupling cap over that as well. That's given, because I finished up, I hadn't quite got enough gain after I put the cold clipper in and changed things, just about not quite enough. So I put that on, that 100 nanofarad on there. I did try putting some other values on, the bigger values, but again it was just too much gain and woolly, so I put that on, and that's just got us right where we want to be. So what else? So yeah, so all the switches now wired up. You can see up there the pilot light, that's all wired up. Now I've insulated these because if somebody opens the lid, lifts it up, puts the fingers under, well, that would be nasty. So that's been well insulated there. You can see the front now with the controls and stuff. Just move the camera back there. So these are all the wires going up, which are a bit untidy because I'm trying to fit it into the back into the record player properly, so they'll get tidied up. So I think that's about it really, those alterations we made. I put a 470k grid stopper into the second stage, but I've took that out now and put 100 in, because as I started to change things around, they were knocking a lot of the top off it, so put 100k in and we're fine with that. So it's all back in the case finally. Took a bit of doing, but we've got it there. We just have a look. You can see all the cables up there running in to the tone stack. There you see the valves inside there protruding, so I've screwed this down firm, so that's all sorted. And we've got the Bush badge on there, which was originally there. You can see, if I just zoom in, that's where it used to be, and that's where we've put it now. The best way to use these is standing on the ends. You can actually see, if we just swing over here, there's one I prepared earlier, that's on its end, and mine is, if we just zoom around here, I've got, you can just see mine there under all the gubbins for the cameras and whatnot. You can see mine there, so I've got 3 of them in here at the moment. They're all different. As we know with this one, EBC81, EF86 and an SV83. This one has got EL83 and like a ECC83, but it's a Russian valve, 6.3 volts, double triode. That's like a Fender Champ design there. And this one is just, you can just see over there through all the stuff. This one's just an EF86 and an SV83, but that's only got a volume and a tone. Some of those other knobs on there are various gadgets. They're like rotary switches with resistors, and other ones got capacitors on there. I've just leave that set. Also with this one, that bypass cap on the screen of that EF86, on the EF86, I've got that switched on that one, because when you put Gibsons through this, it gets a bit farty. So if you flick that out, it's just right for Gibsons, and you can flick it back in for Strats, for single coils, and it works really well. I suppose we best get it plugged in and have a bit of a blast of it. Right, here we are. Let's give it a go. So, Telecaster. flat out now. I've not got it mic'd up fully, so it's only off the camera mic, but it'll give you an idea of, or some idea. There's quite a lot of top on it, treble, just put that in. See, it's quite, especially with a telly. Now we've got the mid on there. It's just beginning to clip with we're telecasting. When it's flat out, that's what you want really. Got all the bass in, so they're not very bassy these, and if you try and for the bass up too much, they just rattle and fart. You don't get a good sound, especially when you turn them up. The bass is very distinct though. That's the thing, because there's a lot of people when they're modelling amps trying to get the tone right, they're doing, maybe some people, techs do it off oscilloscopes. I can't use an oscilloscope, I ain't got a clue, but obviously I've got a good ear, so you can hear the bass is quite prominent over over the actual higher strings. What I tend to find is when I'm messing about with amps trying to get the tone right, you'll finish up where you're playing your bass string and there's just nothing there. And the other strings are just drowning that out, the higher strings. That's when you know you've not balanced up their coupling capacitors and tone stack and whatnot. But I do it by trial and error, to be fair. Right, So let's try a Gibson through it. See what that sounds like. So let's try this Gibson SG through it. This has got 57 classics on this one. It's one of the work guitars, but it wants refretting now, but we'll give it a blast. So we need to back the volume off a bit because it will. You can see there instantly we need a bit more top. Put it to about high volume. it's got a lot more breakup. Let's put it on the bridge. Flat out now, and although that's, I mean, that's borderline too loud for home use, but not if you live in a detached house, of course. So you see that's got quite a bit of oaky there. Drop the volume down, put a bit of mid in there. Just clean up quite nicely. Strings are absolutely shot on this guitar as well. Probably not the best guitar to use, given how bad the strings are. So there you have it, the Bush RP20 record player, which is now the Bush RP20, well, 5-watt guitar amplifier really, isn't it? Bush RP20 5-watt tube amp. It's been a fun project, this one. Really has been fun. A few tricky problems with it, but all in all, it's come out really well. And again, you know, it's a little 5-watt amp to use at home. It's not going to sound like a 50-watt Marshall, but they're fun things to have, and they look cool as well with the tweed. You know, I've actually got another one down here, which I ain't started yet. And what usually happens with these, years ago when they manufactured things, they'd start to skimp and cut corners on them. So these were obviously the first ones, with a beautiful tweed and that. And then this one down here, which I'm just going to fish out, is in chocolate brown. And at first glance you think that's tweed, but it's not. So that's actually vinyl. So now we're getting into this thing where we the amplifier's the same. No, that's the same. The cabinet's still made of ply in there, so the cabinet's still the same. And the bush, you can see the bush badge now. So it's gone from a little badge to these little, to just these singular characters on there. So if we're going to be putting those on front on this one, that's going to be a bit of a minefield to get those to look right. But everything else, the turntables are just the same as well. They're no different. So, and then there was another one that appeared up on eBay, which is even a later model, and again the same amplifier, but it looks like a 1960s ladies' vanity case. Really, you know, and having, instead of having this traditional latch on there that a lot of them had, it's got like the suitcase clip things, the chrome ones on there, and that's again, that's all like a vinyl. It's like a grey, olivey green type of. So again, as they've gone on, they've as most things do, they don't look as cool as what these do. But I thought, well, this one in chocolate brown, this one is clean enough as well. It's filthy. So we shall be doing a video on that one, no doubt, as well, on there. But as you can see, we've got this lovely tweed and there. And these look really classy. They're just nice things to have. They don't sound amazing, but they sound pretty good. And it's that chance to get a tube amp that you can have in your home, that you can turn up, get a clip, and get some good sounds out of it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm hoping to improve the quality of the recordings as well. You notice it's a lot better quality in here because it's a camera I use for the teaching videos and online teaching. But most of that one that I did in the workshop is, well, in my shed, I like to call it a workshop. I've done most of that on my phone, so I'm hoping to get a decent camera in there as well, and then we'll get much better videos and better sound quality. So thanks for watching and sticking around watching me bodge up these amplifiers. And I hope to see you in a future video. If you wish to subscribe to the channel, please do so. And you all stay safe. Thanks for watching. Take care now. Bye.